Hello, YouTube. Welcome to another episode of Voice Acting Coaching. We have a lovely guest with us here today. Would you introduce yourself and maybe where people can find you, my friend?
All right, so I'm Witness, and I basically just have my Discord.
That works. That's totally fine. Go find Witness and tell them how amazing they are. Just bombard them with messages. For my YouTube folks, for anyone who's joining us for the first time, I write about 60 plus scripts, and I have people who join us here live choose one or two that they think really resonates with them, and then they create a character and a scene. They will come to me with their character and their scene for this live session, and we play with it for the next hour. I ask my live guests to come with 3 adjectives for the character's personality. When I do my characters on Mondays and when I audition for things, I'm always trying to create personality traits, and it's the way that I build my voices, and it's the way that I get into my acting with characters. And so I ask that guests bring them to me as well, just so we can play with them if we need to, and we can harken back to them if we ever feel like a choice we made is not quite working. What I'll have you do, Witness, is I will have you just read me the line of dialogue we're using today. No, not perform it, just read it. And then tell us about your character, your scene, and your 3 adjectives for the personality. So, go for it.
The line is, tell me, what did it feel like to have someone poking around in your mind? I'm so curious. The character, overall, I said it was like a tall, dark, shadowy kind of character, adult, could be male or female, depending on which way we want to go with this. And essentially, they're kind of an antagonist character. So the synopsis that I have is they decided to capture the protagonist and torture them by reading their mind to gain information for their plans. After invading the protagonist's mind and prodding at their traumatic memories, this person mocks the protagonist to gauge just how much psychological damage they've done to them, and it serves basically as an insult to injury. The 3 core traits that I picked for this person are sinister, manipulative, and taunting.
Okay, I love this. Y'all will know I love villains. Really like the way that you've built this character. I like that we sort of we're playing it with a route of poking and like torture almost. We're like trying to reveal memories rather than just like, I rip your fingernails out so you tell me things. It's like, I'm gonna like put my hand inside your brain and I'm gonna steal things.
Right.
And I'm gonna manipulate. I love this. Personality trait words are sinister, manipulative, and taunting. Taunting was interesting. When you say taunting, do you mean like tempting? Or do you mean like teasing? Like, what's your conceptual idea of taunting?
Almost like mocking, in a sense.
All right, that's sort of how you were talking at the end of like insult to injury, trying to like,
right.
Okay, trying to get the person that you are, I'm gonna use the word torture, trying to get the person that you are torturing to like give you more pleasure almost by the fact that they have been hurt by you. So I'll let you get your first take off here. Whenever you're ready, give us your thoughts and do the line.
Tell me, what did it feel like to have someone poking around in your mind? I'm so curious.
What is your immediate thought when you're doing that first run? We know a little bit about your character idea, right? And sort of the scene that you're in. But what's your immediate feeling when you're doing this of like maybe an emotion, maybe it's a visual thing, maybe it's a sound thing? What's your immediate like, this is what comes to mind when I do this line?
That was my first time kind of going through it in front of somebody.
Yes.
And so I felt like when I did it, I envisioned the character being more mature, and I didn't feel like I conveyed that because I didn't fully commit right off the bat.
I also like what you're talking about the maturity, right? Like, you kind of wanted to be a bit more like you're, if not experienced at this, you are experienced in life, maybe. So a bit more of that maturity. But I do want to ask you why you felt it didn't feel mature.
I think the big part was because I felt like I didn't fully commit because I felt awkward going into it the first time.
When it comes to sinister and maturity, what I'm gonna suggest is I want you to be genuinely curious. Like, you're not just like, oh, I'm curious. I want you to really be like, okay, but no one else can look inside people's minds, which means I can never experience what you just experienced. So there's a little teeny piece of me that genuinely wants to know what it feels like from that side of the coin.
Yeah, I like that. It adds more depth to the situation, to the character.
Try and be like genuinely like, okay, but what did it feel like? You know what I mean?
Right. Okay.
Whenever you're ready.
Tell me, what did it feel like to have someone poking around in your mind? I'm so curious.
How did that one feel for you? Did it feel like it changed?
It did a little bit, yeah. That felt a little more connected to the character, I think.
Okay.
It felt more real.
In what way did it feel a little more connected? Was it an emotion? Was it a visual? Was it like just sort of pacing or timing? What kind of really hit it where you were like, oh, something's here?
I think your point of like making the curiosity more genuine, I think, really helped.
I can lead you in. I can be the patient and lead you into this line. Totally up to you.
I would love to try that, yeah.
Hell yeah. I'm gonna suggest you keep, like folks have been saying in the chat, with that genuine curiosity, with a little bit of like sinister, maybe like I'm curious, but also I hope it hurt kind of energy.
Right, yeah.
And I think it's coming out beautiful in your language. And we'll see if me leading you in can also help ground you a bit in that feeling. You're sick, you know that.
Tell me, what did it feel like to have someone poking around in your mind? I'm so curious.
Ooh, did that feel different?
Yeah, that felt more crazed and enthusiastic a little bit. Just a little.
Okay, so was the lead-in able to give you sort of a jumping point to start the line a bit?
I think so, yeah. It gives that context.
Okay, perfect. So I like what the word you used is enthusiastic. I want to keep that energy. So
okay.
What I want you to add to this next round, and I don't mind leading you in again, so I can do that.
Okay.
I want you to add as if you are genuinely like doing this poking and prodding in someone's mind is drugs to you. Like you are on a high.
Okay.
All right?
Okay,
like,
all right.
Whatever it is, right? Whether it's caffeine, whether it's chocolate, whether it's drugs, whatever gives you that actual shit of like, I need to know, tell me the thing, this is the thing, I did the thing, right? Give me that energy, whether it comes out in a vocal, like actual voice, like I just did, whether it comes out in a breath where it's fast and it's moving, whatever it comes out is fine. But give me that like genuine, I'm on top of the world and I need to know. And this sort of enthusiasm and like hype energy could come from if you're, tuning into what I'm sending you word-wise, then you might be able to have that reaction of like, yeah, that's right. You know what I mean?
I have a question then.
Absolutely.
So do you want it to go more in that almost hyper kind of high sense like crack, or more like a deep dark craving that it's like satiating?
Either way.
Okay, cool.
I think when it comes to how the enthusiasm resonates within you, that's you. That's your natural instinct. That is whatever you, and it might change, right? Doing it multiple times, but whatever naturally you're like, this is the way it's coming out, let it happen.
Right.
All right, here we go. Just stop, okay? You've already got what you wanted.
Tell me, what did it feel like to have someone poking around in your mind? I'm so curious.
Ooh! The curious at the end. I don't know if you realized you did it, but you're curious this whole time has been like, curious. This time around you went, curious. delicious and like had this like gurgle garlic. You ate it. Oh my god. How did that one feel different than the other one where I led you in?
So I kind of went with a more almost masculine kind of take on it, I feel. And definitely leaned in more to that sinister, darker kind of vibe, as opposed to like the lighter crazed kind of side. Yeah. Although I haven't really gone full crazed yet, but
I agree. I kind of like the more deeper, lower tones. That doesn't mean that we can't go to the other end, but I do think that if that was your natural reaction to when we were deciding which way, that we should try to stick with it. I will always tell folks, do whatever feels natural over whatever you've been working with. So if we're gonna go that route, I'm gonna ask you to slow down your words a little, elongate them, because I think it might be helpful to feel like you are dragging out your answer to the person, the victim that you're working on. And then once we get to the end of your sentence, we realize you didn't even give them an answer. You're just asking more questions. So it's sort of this play back and forth of like, you're keeping control, but it'll add into your teasing, into your taunting, if you're almost giving us the idea of like, maybe you have control. Maybe I'm answering. No, I'm not answering. Right? Like.
Yeah. It's like baiting them and making them hang on to like every word.
Yes, hang on to every word. That's brilliant.
Okay.
All right, here we go. Whatever you're looking for, you're not gonna find it. I'll never give it up.
Tell me, what did it feel like to have someone poking around in your mind? I'm so curious.
Yes! Oh my god! Y'all, that one was good. What did you feel for this one?
The word poking for me, leading up to that word and then like centering on that a little bit, was really fun to mess with.
Okay, why do you think poking grabbed you?
It's a very specific verb that you don't see a lot in common language, and it's really the fact that you're poking and prodding at someone's mind is like, you can really emphasize that and give like the darker side of it, I guess. If that makes sense.
Yes, but I'm gonna do what I always do. What do you mean by poking on the darker side? Because, right, if we're thinking poking, we might think, I'm not touching you, I'm not touching you.
Right, yeah.
So, what do you mean by darker side?
So, in that sense of, like, teasing and prodding at someone's brain and trying to mess with them and gain the upper hand with them. So instead of like, I'm poking at your brain asking you questions, it's like, I'm invading your mind, basically.
That's a good word. Okay. I love the word invading, right? Because all of a sudden we've taken something that's arguably a neutral word, which is poking. Poke, poke, poke. And we've added what's called connotation. Connotation is when you are giving a word a subsequent almost like feeling or meaning. So for example, the connotation of invading is negative. There is almost no way, shape, or form that you can ever use the word invade and mean it with a positive feeling or a positive idea, versus poking is a very neutral connotation. Poking is very like, meh, you poked someone. Cool. So I like this word invading because we're twisting and turning the subconscious effects that happen in the listener when we start using these words. So you're still going to use the word poking, right? Because that's the dialogue. But now you know that when I hear it, when I hear the word poking that you say, I shouldn't be thinking, oh, poking. I should hear that from you and go, oh, why does that feel bad? Why does that word have a negative wait. I should all of a sudden be like, that's not how that word is supposed to feel to me. So take a little bit of that negative, menacing connotation and don't just have it for poking. All of this is invasive.
I think it's spot on. I really like where it's going. Okay.
All right, here we go. I don't know what you want, but I don't have any answers, okay?
Tell me, what did it feel like to have someone poking around in your mind? I'm so curious.
Ooh. Okay, immediately right off the bat, our curious has changed again. It's so interesting to me how, even when we focus on other aspects and other words, this curious keeps changing with every iteration. So with our really sinister dark one, right, it was like curious, right? Like it was low and it was soft and it was taunting and tempting. With this one, it's gone back up. It's gone back up to
really?
high. Yeah, it went back up to a curious of like, I'm curious. It went up to our, I'm genuinely like, if I press this red button, what's gonna happen? And it made the piece scarier because it went from like, I am intimidating, I am scary, and I'm so intimidating and powerful and scary that now I'm excited. And it's like, we still already had from your first half the authority and the power that came with you. So the fact that we know you're intimidating and now you're excited.
Now it's almost like they're kind of sick and unhinged at that point.
How did it feel different for you?
I appreciate that you noted how the word curious changed because I hadn't noticed when I was doing it.
We often don't.
I'm trying to play with the pacing a bit. I think I'm capable of going slower. I just have to get past that discomfort with it.
Our brains subconsciously pick places where punctuation is to pause or to breathe or to go up or down in our voice. Subconsciously, it is making choices. And so when we keep doing it over and over and over, we keep repeating those same choices over and over and over because our brain has determined, without us being able to control, this is where the thing happens. So I think it'll help you get more comfortable with and also feel a little better about your pacing if we eliminate these punctuation places.
It's interesting you recommended getting rid of the punctuation because I thought it would be adding more punctuation to try to stop and slow it down. So that's almost counterintuitive. I'm curious how it's gonna work out.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I love about like playing around with acting and voice acting and stuff is oftentimes things that shouldn't work do. My favorite part about acting is that it's just practicing and playing until you find what works. I love natural instincts taking part. So I want to take away punctuation and see if that is where we should be going, or if we're trying to force ourselves down a path that it doesn't want us to be on. Here we go. Just stop. I'll tell you whatever you want to know. Just stop, please.
Tell me, what did it feel like to have someone poking around in your mind? I'm so curious. It felt alright. That was alright. It was definitely, there was a little bit of different pacing, I could tell.
Okay. Did it feel like it was able to, like, push you a little bit? Because I know you said a little different pacing. What stood out to you as, like, the difference?
I almost kind of separated the phrase "in your mind." I separated that from the previous phrase in the sentence.
Yes, you did. I always like to ask y'all first if I can remember because it's more important to me what you notice than what I tell you. And what's interesting is you definitely changed the inflection, right? You went from in your mind to in your mind, which was interesting because this whole previous time it's been around in your mind, as if I care about what's happening in your mind, in my mind. This time it was your mind. Like the person I'm talking to is the one that I'm directing this to. I don't give a fuck what happens in hers or theirs or even my own. I want yours. How do you feel? And it added this connection to the person that you were talking to that I don't know that we've had before. And I kind of like where that's going, so we're gonna play with that.
Sure.
The other thing I will say is it got rid of the question mark, which was really interesting to me, because in your mind, as you noted, became a whole separate segment, right? But it became a whole separate segment with a literal period in your mind, period. It was not in your mind, it was in your mind, like a statement. Definitely gave this grounded energy of almost rhetorical. Like, you're not gonna answer this question. I'm gonna then follow up with like another stab into your brain. This is just kind of like to make you feel worse. Added to the taunting, to the baiting, to the pull and play of like giving a little bit of control. No, you can't have it.
Right.
And it worked really well. Who are you talking to in this moment?
Adding a familial relationship for some reason kind of speaks in my head.
When I say connection, I also want to talk about how well you know this person and your energy towards them. So do we know them super, super well? Or are they kind of just like in your way? Do we care what they have to say or what we have to think? Or are we using them just for information? That's kind of what I want to delve into a bit. So, did any of those strike a chord that feel like we could run with?
I know initially when I had created the prompt, I had thought of it as solely using this person as a means to an end to get their information.
Okay.
So, I had always been against them, or even it's more just using them.
Is this somebody that you've known before this moment? Or is this, hey, go get that person, get the info we need?
When I wrote it, I had initially not had any previous connection, but I think it would add an interesting layer of depth to have them previously know them from something.
I don't want to put finites or definitive details or aspects on this character, because this character is not you. At the end of the day, we don't give a shit about this character. We give a shit about you. So, and that's not the character you're playing, but the character you're talking to, we don't give a shit about. We give a shit about your character. Just to clarify, because that's a lot of weird yous in place there.
I appreciate it.
Yes, we give a shit about the person saying this dialogue. That's who our protagonist is in this second. Rather than the person they're talking to. So I don't necessarily want to define the person you're talking to with like, their name is Jimmy Bibby Bob Brown and they were my best friend from blah blah blah. I don't care. It's too much history, it's too much backstory, and one of the big mistakes that we often make is when we have too much information, we're trying to encompass it all into one performance. It doesn't work that way. And I want you to do it keeping in mind the fact that they are a means to an end. You need to get things from them. But, in some way, shape, or form, realize that the person in front of you is someone you knew. I'm not going to tell you how. I'm not going to tell you what your relationship is with them. That's for you to feel while you're doing it. But take a second at some point, before, in the middle, at the end, to make a realization of this person that's sitting in front of you and recognize who they are. Here we go. So this is who you are now, huh? Fucking with everyone?
Tell me, what did it feel like to have someone poking around in your mind? I'm so curious.
What was your realization or your recognition of this person?
I think based on what you gave me, it was almost kind of that, like, previous romantic history almost kind of situation.
Yeah. Previous romantic history situation. Did it end well?
No, I don't. I feel like they were exes and they did not like part ways in a healthy way.
Okay, so not an amiable breakup.
Right.
Was it one-sided or did they just kind of like split?
I think it was one-sided.
Who? Me or you?
I think it was me.
That broke it off?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like,
Okay.
I think it was like, the fact that your character said, so this is who you are now, it's like, no, it was like, no, this is who they've always been.
Okay.
That's kind of what it was going for. I think it's
Okay.
kind of what it was going.
I love that. Let's hone in on that specifically. Have a second and remember you were hiding yourself. Who you are inside is who you are right now. Have that moment internally before you start talking and see how that changes and manipulates and like adds, spices your dialogue. You know, I thought we were doing fine. But sure. Get whatever you want. You won't find anything in my head anyways.
Tell me, what did it feel like to have someone poking around in your mind? I'm so curious.
Yeah, now the villain's here.
Yeah.
Now the villain's here.
There it is.
There it is. Okay, so I'll ask you how you felt or how it felt changed to you first. What did it feel like?
It felt grounding.
Ooh.
Yeah.
In what way? In what way did it feel grounding?
It really helped solidify the character for me. Basically, the idea that this guy is just, he's always just been truly rotten, in the sense that, like, I've always thought of you as a means to an end. I've never cared. You were never worth anything.
I asked you to have a moment and a second, and I gave you something to have a moment, a second about, and you went into it being like, all right, cool, I'm gonna do that. And then the second it came to having that moment, your natural instincts went, no, this doesn't belong here. This is not that moment. The moment is, I've never given a shit what you thought. I'm not hurt. I've never cared in the first place. And I love that. Because that's the kind of shit we want. When your natural instincts are going, no, I don't think so. That's what I want. Because all of a sudden it comes out in your dialogue, in your performance, as a solidified, like, character decision. And this is their personality. And it's great when it works with something we've planned, but it's also great when it says no. Right? Like,
Right, yeah.
there was no, like, put on low voice. There was no gargle. There was no, like, I am the low intimidating guy. All I heard was you. But it was a stronger performance, and it was a more sinister and scary and evil performance because it came through in the way that you were almost spitting the words. The word what in particular, you made it its own sentence. Like, you genuinely were like, what? That is stronger and more powerful as a listener than any type of traditional low or grumble or masculine style voice can be. It was beautiful to have just sort of your natural voice hang on these words, and the amount of almost spite, like pleasure in spite that was sort of dripping from your words was amazing.
Nice. Yeah, it's like it wasn't hiding behind a deep, gravelly voice.
Exactly, right? It was you front and center.
Part of me is curious about trying kind of the other direction.
Ooh.
So, kind of the more, like praised unhinged. Not like super hyper insane, but like, I don't know, just not as kind of going away from the dark aspect.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yes, it does. All right, here we go. That one hurt, you know that?
Tell me, what did it feel like to have someone poking around in your mind? I'm so curious.
Good. What did that version feel like?
That one was almost childlike in nature from the curiosity standpoint. And just that energy was there.
I'm gonna lead you in with a different dialogue, and I want to see if it affects your desire. Here we go. Please. I don't know how much more I can take.
Tell me, what did it feel like to have someone poking around in your mind? I'm so curious.
Ooh, how did that change that?
It was very taunting. Very much. It was sassy. It was very sassy.
I kind of love it. I love how this one line and our two perspectives, changing what you want, changing who you're talking to, has made you two different villains. Which is so cool.
Yes.
And we don't always get to sort of do the opposites. Oftentimes we'll change and we'll mess around with one thing that we're kind of trying to hone in on. So it was fun to be able to be like, okay, we did a little baby taste flavoring over here. Now what if we jumped ship and played with this one a little bit? That's going to be the end of our session then. I really liked playing with this. I think it was a fun time. I hope you had fun.
Oh yeah, this was awesome. I loved it.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I'm Witness. You can find me on Discord.
I will have all that jazz in the description for y'all. To my YouTube fellows, don't forget you can join us live on Mondays for our Voicing Artists original characters, or live on Wednesdays for voice acting coaching. The form will also open up again soon, so if you would like to be a guest on voice acting coaching, you can apply yourself. But we hope to see you on the live streams giving us cool suggestions and stuff. Goodbye!